And welcome. Immediate laughter from the crowd. We're doing some light character work. I welcome to the Universal Church of Truth. We're talking about Werewolf by Night. The first Marvel special presentation on Disney Plus about werewolves and monsters. I am one half of your host, Professor Cornelius Fancyworth Wigglybottom, Monster Hunter Supreme, and the guy in black and white, because that's what they do here. And you are?
Yeah, is it my turn? I didn't know how long that was gonna go. And the other half, I'm regular. I did try to turn my camera black and white, didn't work out well, so that's why we're.
You don't have to. You don't have to tell them that.
We're transparent with our fans.
No, I'm black and white.
Well, you're awesome. Sorry, I did not try to do that.
It's okay. It's okay. We're gathered here today to talk about Werewolf by Night. We'll see if I can sustain this shtick for a full hour. Mary doesn't think I can do it, and therefore I will do it. Mary, how many times have you seen Werewolf by Night?
I have seen it twice. Whatever your fake name was,
Professor Cornelius Fancyworth Wigglybottom.
Okay, so Hunter, I've seen it twice.
And how recent was the last viewing?
A few days ago, I think.
You're fired. I watched 20 minutes ago.
You watched it on what? 2 speed? 3 speed?
No, I watched it at full speed and I skipped the middle.
Watch it 2 speed.
This is gonna be a long hour.
Ooh, okay.
A very long hour indeed. Mary, tell us your thoughts on Werewolf by Night, the very first Marvel special presentation and the first of Marvel's spooky times.
So I feel like I had this not a secret, but I harbored this shame for a year since we knew it was coming out. Obviously, it wasn't announced till last month. But everybody seemed immediately just the Werewolf by Night. Maybe it's just my everyone seems so fucking excited, and the whole time I'm just okay. So going into it, and I wrote the review too. I was like, what if I don't like it? People are gonna fry me, holy shit. And I loved it. You can read the review, it's somewhere. But I think it was phenomenal. I'm not into essentially, for lack of a better word, the shticks that they kind of really relied on in marketing. And I'm not against it, but I'm not into it. So I really did not think I would like it that much, and I loved it. I thought everything they did that was weird was purpose, but super cool, and nothing felt sticky, even though it wasn't black and white, and obviously that's weird for Marvel. And I it was great. It was perfect little one-off thing. I really liked that it's a short story. Obviously, the MCU continues pretty much every story they've ever told. So it's not going to be the last we see of these people. But if it was, I'd be more than happy. I really liked it.
I like that I used the word shtick, and now it's a thing. We're gonna keep using shtick.
Oh,
Yeah, that's how it got to your brain. I planted the seed.
That's it.
I'm a professor.
It's a common word, but
No, psychology. Never mind. I don't think you get it. Okay. Um, I also liked it a lot. Um, to your point, I enjoyed that it was just like the one night and not like the world is ending, but instead it was like one night of this like raucous affair and everything was going crazy and there were monsters and violence, a lot of violence. It's a lot of violence for 52 minutes of TV time. Um, but I like that, and the black and the white, it helps with that because you can do more of that with the black and the white.
Okay.
It's true. I was.
I don't know what your pauses are, Professor Hunter, but like I
It's when I think.
point
It's my
immediately.
think time.
Okay.
Is my time for thinking. No, I mean, listen, I love it a lot. I was one of the people that you were talking about that, like, before it even came out, I just knew. I was like, I'm probably gonna love this. I tweeted about it a lot. Uh, I think there's videos of me getting all excited. So I had a lot to lose because if it came out and it was a stinker and it was no good, well, that's on me. I got to live with that now, and I got to go on the Twitter and I got to tell people I was wrong, and then it's good I'm not writing the review and that you were writing the review because, you know, but I did like it a lot. I think that this is the kind of thing that Marvel needs to do more of, and I like that we are in a position now that they can do these things the way that they're doing. Because, like, this is a corner of the Marvel universe that we've never gotten to see before, and I was I can do the voice, but if you
I'm
laugh,
just
I'm
laughing
gonna.
at something else. I thought of a joke from earlier. Just laughing at that.
Is it the hat?
I mean, there's a lot going on. I don't know if we can really simplify it to the hat, but
I
keep
feel
going.
like you don't like my hat.
Keep going.
Okay. Anyway, I hope that this is just like a werewolf bursting open doors for the future of the MCU. I do think, they go on and this comes out and people are excited and they like it, and then the director, he comes out and he's talking about how it's not the first episode of the series. It's not a pilot. It's not leading to like a Werewolf by Night the show situation. It's just Werewolf by Night, a Marvel special presentation. And that's good. And I think that Werewolf by Night will show up again. Obviously, I don't think you get an actor that talented and then like give him his own thing just for him to never pop up again. And we got Man Thing. That's the other cool situation here is that we got Man Thing, who they did really well. They changed them up a little bit from the comics, but I do appreciate the changes that they make because from a storytelling perspective, I think they work quite well. In the comics, he's a little bit more of a dummy dumb, and in this, he's got a little bit. They call him Ted. He's Ted. In the comics, he's not Ted. He's Man Thing. Uh, he doesn't really think Ted Salis is just. He's buried deep. He's like a subconscious situation. He's not really like there in the forefront doing a lot of the thinking. And then they call him Ted, which I think was a very interesting choice. Um, and I'm glad that they made it because I think there's a lot more that you can do with this character going forward if he can like think and interact with people in a meaningful way. It also makes the moments when he comes down and just totally annihilates the bad guys all the sweeter. This is not a pause. This is me stopping so that you may give input.
Oh, me? Oh, that
Yeah.
is a pause. What are you talking about? Okay. It's a different kind of
I
pause.
mean, it's a pause, but it's a pause with like a different intention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It is interesting how they kind of set the two of them up. And I guess we can get into more like background of those characters. But I do think the way they set them up kind of as a pair who are already friends, and I think X refers to Ted as like family at one point, like makes you question, obviously, what are they doing in their regular life? Why are they that close? Are they doing things together as a little group of monsters? Who knows? We'll find out. But I agree. I liked Ted a lot. He looked really good. I think he looked
Yeah,
good. And
he
for
was. He looks so everything they did in the special was practical effects, and it looked at first like Ted was like the only CGI, and of course I'm sure that they enhanced him with CGI in post, but there was some they posted some photos from the set, and he wasn't CG he wasn't fully CGI. They had an actual like full man thing costume that they were using on set, which I thought was really cool and impressive because that's a lot of effort that I feel like they wouldn't always do. But for this, they went all in, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, he looked good. I mean, I think a lot of people, at least coming up just this, like he's gonna be kind of what Groot was for a lot of people. Like he's obviously not any. He's like a different creature who doesn't speak English, but he's kind of
He's gonna be Groot
still
for
fuck people up. So
adults.
he's kind of like Groot, but on Earth. Um, but yeah, no, I that was sweet. I will say it's interesting how they've like formally, I guess, introduced him, Man Thing, given we've had all these Easter eggs
Hmm.
in MCU, including on Scar and Thor Ragnarok, how sort of like relatively unceremonious they've introduced him. They obviously don't give us like any other backstory. He's not the main character. Like, but it's just kind of like you build it up, and I'm sure he will be built up more. But it's just kind of funny that like we are introduced to him as Ted, the friendly but angry monster. And we're left to, and we're left to be like, okay, so how did he get to Sakaar, and how did he do that? And now
Right,
that he's
right,
kind of
right, right.
the monster here, how is he being the
I
chief?
thought about that
Yeah.
quite a bit. I actually enjoy I feel like there was a time with the MCU where if they were gonna introduce anything, and I feel like Doctor Strange in 2016 was sort of like the end of this era, where they felt like if we're gonna introduce something, we gotta do like a whole origin movie where we like intricately explain where this whole corner of the universe has been since the beginning, and like we have to convince you as the audience, hey, like there's been magic here the whole time. We're gonna do a whole movie where we explain where it's been. And I feel like they don't feel like they gotta do that no more. Like I feel like they just drop us into this world of monsters, and you get the sense like, oh, they've been doing this for a long time, and it just never crossed over with the other stuff, and that's okay. And I like that. I like that we've reached that point where it's like, yeah, monsters exist, and we all just ride with it. And I like that Man Thing and Jack Russell, the werewolf, the titular werewolf by night, that they can show up and hint like, yeah, we've been monsters out here for a long time, and we have this whole history, and like you guys haven't seen all of it, but it happened, and then we can kind of like piece it all together from there. I mean, there's enough in the MCU to suggest that Man Thing or Ted, that his origin played out more or less like it did in the comics. I mean, Iron Man 3, right? You have Ellen Brandt, who in the comics is Man Thing's lover, who betrays him so she can join AIM, and her betrayal to join AIM, where he's messing with the super soldier serum, uh, that is what causes him to eventually become Man Thing in this big tragic accident in a car in a swamp with the super soldier serum and all this fun stuff. So, the implication is there that something along those lines still happened because Ellen Brandt has existed in the MCU as a member of AIM. So that still tracks. Extremis in Iron Man 3. I'm thinking of this on the fly right now, but it makes a lot of sense to me. Extremis in Iron Man 3 was described as like an attempt to recreate the super soldier serum or like something along those lines, like a better version of that. So, hypothetically, one could say perhaps that Ted Sallis, Dr. Ted Sallis in the MCU, was in a relationship with Ellen Brandt, working on what would eventually become Extremis, Hence, Man-Thing having cool fire powers similar to Extremis. And then the betrayal happens. Ellen just kind of stays with AIM. He becomes Man-Thing, does his whole situation, falls into this secret world of monsters, becomes friends with the werewolf by night, who we know has been around. I mean, he said he fought the vampire like a few times, which is a thing in the comics as well. Lots of fun little Easter eggs there. And yeah, and the implication here too. Another one last thing I'll say before I give myself a break here is is there's an implication that Jack has been saving Ted like for a long time, and if Ted keeps getting captured and taken places because of his monstrous form, there's a very good chance he was captured and ended up on I don't know how the heck he ended up on Sakaar, but he probably got there, which means, on top of this, there's a good chance that the werewolf by night also went to space to save Man Thing from Sakaar. And listen, when I tell you that I want that more than anything in the entire world, I need you to believe me. Because we could have Jeff Goldblum in there too. And who doesn't love Jeff Goldblum? I feel like I'm forgetting something bad he's done, and I'm gonna regret saying
That's the problem with, like, a
that.
lot of people. Yeah. I can't think of it, but I kind of on the same vibe as you. But it may just be like his personality's a little weird.
Yeah, it feels
So
like he did
so
something
he's
wrong,
done something
right?
bad.
It feels like he did something wrong at some point. That's my vibe. Anyway, all of that to say, this is the Werewolf by Night Church breakdown, and I've broken down Man Thing's backstory within the MCU, and I think it's still there and possible that we explore it someday.
I will say I think there's a very small chance we don't see at least like a very truncated version of like their origin stories at some point.
Yeah,
I mean, for just basic storytelling, I mean,
Werewolf by Night, freshman year.
well, yeah. And also because I could see, which I don't love the idea of, but like if there is like a movie, say it's a team up movie, doesn't matter what, but they're in it, and then you get like one of those little quick blips that's just like a real quick version of their origin. It's like, that's maybe okay. It depends. I think with Werewolf by Night, his, or at least Jack Russell's origin is like pretty fucking convoluted. Like it's not like the worst out there by any means, but like it's not.
It's not.
Yeah,
There's
it's
been a
not.
few different retcons. My favorite detail of that is that because of the retcons, it's now canon in the 616 universe that before Jack Russell, there were like three guys in a row named Gregor Russoff.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. So it's just kind of like it's not like that hard to show an origin of someone who in their family. Okay, so in his family, obviously there was a curse, obviously, of lycanthropy, werewolfism, and that ultimately got passed down. I mean, the Darkhold was involved at a lot of points in this family's history, and Jack Russell. So who knows? That could come into play. Um, but what was the original? What was the Dracula was the original reason, like the ancestor original guy. His
I know the answer. Pick me.
oh,
Um, yeah, so that's why in the special when he kind of I don't think that was Dracula. I think that would be silly of them to like have killed Dracula off screen and have him look like that. The head up there looks a little bit more like the MCU's version of like Nosferatu, who does exist in the comics as well and looks like that. He's got the same like big old like teeth, creepy whatever the heck. Um, but yeah, so in the comics, the original, I think it's like Grigory Rusov, back a long time ago. His wife was kidnapped by Dracula, and so he goes and he's like, "Give me my wife back," and because of the times, and Dracula's like, "No." He's
because of the times.
Well, I said it kind of like he was implying the wife was his property, which isn't like what I meant, but in the time
Only rescue their wives in 1795, give or take. So, not
anyway. Anyway, um, yeah, so he's like, give it back, and then Dracula's like, no, bow to me, and he's like, no, and Dracula doesn't like that, so Dracula apparently has like another werewolf locked up, and he's like, sick him, and then the werewolf gets him and turns him into a werewolf, and then and then I never thought I would be delivering this information in this way, but here we are. Uh, Nothing happens for like a whole bunch of people in a row. There's like this weird, unexplained, the gene gets passed, but no one turns into a werewolf until Gregor Rusoff,
one of them.
one of the guys. He finds the Darkhold, and he decides he's gonna read the Darkhold. But what he doesn't know, you got it. What he doesn't know is that it's a full moon. So the full moon happens while he's reading the Darkhold, and it unlocks his wolf gene, and he becomes a wolf again. And then from there, it's just like passed down genetically. But there's also like
Fine.
one of the Gregors gets like uh held up at Wondergore Mountain. Like the Rusoff line at one point owned Wondergore Mountain, and then they sold it to Jessica Drew's dad and the High Evolutionary. So it's like, really, if Kevin Feige and the folks at Marvel Studios and whatnot, like if they really wanted to, they could take Werewolf by Night. You can connect him to like Doctor Strange. You can connect him to the Guardians of the Galaxy. You can connect him to Spider Woman. You can connect him to Dracula and Blade and like all like he's so interlocked. And then, as you wrote about and recently, I don't know, is it published? You wrote it.
You told me to write.
Well, don't tell them that.
It's not like secret information. Yes, there's an
Mary
article.
wrote
I
a
read
wonderful
something like a potential Moon Knight season 2 could feature werewolf by night characters.
because he's encountered.
Hunter approached me with the idea, told me I was smart. I said I don't think so, but I'll write it, and I wrote it.
Truthfully, I thought of a good idea, but was too lazy to do it. So I said, Mary, you seem free and available.
How would I seem that way at all? It's just not correct. But I just don't say no to things. Which, to be fair, is why I'm here. But here we go.
That's what I was counting on. That's true.
Anyway, you know it was published. Even though your shtick is, I don't know why would that relate to your shtick right now.
I I actually did not know if it was published. I had been very busy.
We've talked about it. Like,
I knew that you wrote it. I didn't know if it got published yet.
that's just a lie, but we can move on.
Did we talk about it? Oh, we did. We
I don't know. I don't know if people read it or not, but a lot of people liked it on Twitter.
That's great. No, Mary is correct. We did talk about it. I slept. If everything that's happening right now was already an indicator, I slept about 3 hours last night.
You would have done that on 10 hours of sleep. You would have done all this. I don't know which
That's
side of
true. I tried to give myself an excuse, but there's none. Another fun thing that happens in this special is that there's a picture of Manphibian on the wall, and I like Manphibian. Yeah, I talk about Manphibian a lot. I don't know if that audio, it didn't fully come through for me.
Oh, I just whispered. You do like.
Oh, that's why. That's why. Okay, well, for, for the folks at home, Manphibian looks like Marvel's creature from the Black Lagoon. Uh, and that's why they call them Manphibian. However, Manphibian is not a monster. Manphibian is an alien from another planet. I know. And Manphibian comes from a genderless world where everybody loves each other and there's no this sound I'm not kidding, this is real. Where everybody loves each other and there's no violence. No violence at all. It's a utopian society, just a bunch of creatures from the Black Lagoon running around, loving life. Until one day, somebody kills their partner. And that's crazy, because no one does that there. And some amphibians like this guy killed my partner, and they're like, we don't have laws because we didn't plan on this. And then the guy is like, I gotta get out of here. So he leaves. They leave, sorry. And then Amphibian's like, well, now I want revenge, so I'm gonna chase him. So he chases him all the way across the galaxy. They end up on Earth. They get to Earth. They kill the guy, because of course they do. But then they're stuck on Earth. Uh, and then they look like the creature from the Black Lagoon, so they kind of become like part of the Legion of Monsters, and they just accept their role amongst the people. And they're great, though. They got a brain. The brain is in the neck. I enjoy that very much. But the amphibian, despite not being an actual monster, is one of the few monsters shown in Bloodstone Manor that is like an actual monster from the Marvel comics. The rest seem to be made up for the yes, Mary.
Was he just on like the wall, like the art?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
during the scene. It's during the really cool scene. We'll get to the actual special now that we're 30 minutes in soon. But it's in the really cool scene where the werewolf by night is just killing everybody in that one room, and the blood like splatters the camera. If you pause it on one of the frames, when it's like the light is flashing, you'll see it's like the left wall. There's a drawing of an amphibian, which is very very cool. I think him and probably Nosferatu. We know Bigfoot. I'm convinced that at least one of those furry man drawings was supposed to be a Wendigo. Um, I think that would be fun, but there's no confirmation. There's a lot of hairy guys in the Marvel universe, so you can't really narrow it down from like a vague caveman sketch that Ulysses did. And then what else? Gore. Gore. The comic accurate version of
Yeah.
Gore the God Butcher is displayed prominently, which is a fun choice.
About this, that definitely looks like gore.
It is. It's a literal panel from a Thor comic that they transcribed onto the walls. It's like has to be him because it's literally the panel from the comic.
Fair enough. I'm glad you said that because I had that thought many times. Well,
Mhm.
a couple of times I watched it and I was like, I don't feel like enough people have like mentioned this.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like it's right. It's like the easiest one to find too.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Also, the Avengers are in it
Yeah. Well.
in the beginning, and they're another like caveman drawing.
Yeah.
So, Mary, what were your thoughts on Bloodstone Manor and the Maze and the Monster Hunters and Elsa Bloodstone and Verusa Bloodstone and Werewolf by Night and Ted?
The Bloodstone stuff was interesting. It kind of tracks the comics. Elsa Bloodstone's like relatively new in the comics. I think she rolled up in like
2011.
2001, dude.
2001.
So 21st century. But I mean, compared to like all these other people like 70s.
I was close.
You can
I
tell.
just had to switch out one of the ones with a zero.
But yeah. So she interesting. I mean, she's not like a particularly well-known comic book character. She will be now because everyone's going to be like a diehard fan of her. Always, they've always been that after this, and that's okay. But I wasn't. But so her introduction to comics at least was I keep this brief so we get to special. She and her mom, who had long ago not spoken to, they had she was Bloodstone, she was never special. He existed in the comics, so they go to a
Mary, your volume, I think your audio is cutting in and out a little bit.
I don't know.
Can you talk louder?
No.
Yeah, it's good. That's right there. That's the spot.
I'll just scooch up. But Elsa, dad, dead.
Yep.
Monster Hunter. She finds that out because she plays with a bunch of shit she's not to touch in the mansion or whatever. And she befriends this little Frankenstein monster-looking guy named Adam. It's a whole thing, but long story short, the whole like dad is dead, her coming back is like kind of on par. Although in the comics, she didn't really know her dad. She didn't know he's a monster hunter. The like, I don't know. But yeah,
I will also throw out there for our fans that Ulysses Bloodstone in the comics did exist as a character for like many decades before they killed him off and introduced Elsa. So he's not like it wasn't like he was introduced as having just died the way he was in the MCU in the comics. Like Ulysses Bloodstone was the revered monster hunter that the special portrays him as in the comics from like I don't know, he was introduced in like the 60s maybe. But yeah, he was there for a long time and then in 2001 which I knew they were like we're going to do the next generation and that's when they introduced Elsa. Please continue.
well, I mean that's mostly it. I mean, there's not like this drama with like I've what is the character's name? The lady who's like running the whole thing. I feel like there's
Verusa.
what?
Verusa.
I don't. I guess I didn't know that. But
It's like
Verusa.
Veronica, but after they are, you replace
Ooh.
Annika with Usa.
I mean, from what I'm familiar with, I don't know her at all. I don't. Is she like an original character?
I think she's an original character because in the comics, Elsa has like a different mom, but in the special, or at least in like MCU canon, because I checked to make sure, Verusa is clarified to be Ulysses' second wife
Yeah.
and Elsa's stepmom. So her comic accurate mom could still exist in the MCU.
Well, and she does mention like you've turned out more like your mother. From what I understand, there wasn't like all this weird hostility between like knowing her dad, staying with her mom. Like it wasn't as complex as that, but I kind of like that it seems more complex in the MCU. I don't know how much we'll explore that, but I feel like they set up enough that we probably will. Like it was a little too specific at times. But I don't. Where do you want me to go from here? I mean, there's the blood we should probably talk about.
Yeah, let's talk about the yeah, do that.
But okay, so obviously the whole point of this like monster hunt we see in the special is so one of these hunters can get a bloodstone. In the comics, can only bloodstones use it?
I'm pretty sure that's a thing
Yeah.
in,
Okay.
in the comics, and
But
it seems like in the MCU they were like just no monsters.
right, yeah, and so I think in the comics as well, it's not just like one giant thing. There are different things, but obviously, we have one here. Seems pretty important, or we think we have one. I guess they could show more up, but probably not. Um, yeah, in the comics, it would give her like more like superhuman-y type powers, like super strength, agility, stamina, but with plastics. Um,
I can't hear you again.
that's what I was saying. I heard something that time. I don't know if that's me, man. But okay. I don't. It didn't seem to do that in the comics. It obviously hurts monsters a lot. We know that.
Also, in the comics, correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be mixing Elsa up with a different character. Um, but Elsa in the comics is famously a ginger, but she's famously a ginger because she was not born a ginger, but when Ulysses took her out on a monster hunting expedition when she was a wee child, she messed up on account of the fact that she was a wee child. And he was like, "Never do that again. I want you to never forget." So he like soaks her hair in the blood of like the monster or something, and it turns it orange, and it stays like that forever.
I'll say that's true because I don't know. She was
I'm pretty
originally,
sure that's true.
and then like more long term, she's been very much red haired. And to your point, obviously, our character here is not. Um,
It doesn't matter. I was
and,
just I wanted to bring it up because I thought that story was very hardcore.
very hardcore. No, I really liked her though. In this, I wasn't expecting much from her either. To be fair, again, as we noted, I was not expecting much in general. But I feel like I liked her way more than I would have ever thought I would. Because one, she wasn't the main character per se, so like not necessarily all the focus on her. But I don't know. She was just cool. And like sometimes that's harder to do and not like be have a very loud personality or like need to focus on something. But like I just liked her. She seemed cool. When she wanted to fight stuff, she fought stuff. She got what she wanted. She moved on. Great. Classic.
Yeah, I agree with you fully. I actually wrote, if I had written the review, I think I said in a tweet or somewhere, um, same like you just said. I didn't think I was gonna not like her. It just, I didn't know that much at the time about her character. I hadn't gone back and like read anything yet, and you're expecting the werewolf and the man thing to be like the standouts because they're monsters and that's cool. But then Elsa shows up and she's awesome. And genuinely I believe that I think coming out of this, Elsa is like my standout. Like I'm more interested to see where, almost more interested to see where she goes next than like even Werewolf by Night, because I think that she's a very cool character, and I think that her action sequences in particular were like really good. Like I could see her going up against either of the Black Widows and like winning. And brutal. Like she literally cut a man's arm off, and then used his own wrist crossbow to like shoot him in the head. It was insane, and I loved it.
Will make you feel better in my review that you did not write.
I did not. It's
I did
yours.
say she was the surprise standout. I think that was how
Ugh.
I worded it. So like you
This is a
basically
surprise to me because I did not read your review.
did not read your review. I pretend I didn't know the article we basically co-wrote was published today. Just a man of mystery over there. But no, I agree. She
I'm
was
very busy.
and I had the Black Widow thought too when she was doing some of her first like
She did like a similar. She did like
did
the
one
leg
thing.
wraparound thing.
Yeah. And I mean they imply she got her training not from her dad, which in the comics, like they kind of retcon after the first issue, like, yeah, she did. But like not really retcon, goes back and does it. But I feel like they imply not like her dad, she's more like her mom. And then Verusa says something like training, and she goes, not her dad's credit. I don't exactly know she's working, but she implies it somewhere else. I don't know where. Maybe her mom is Scarlett Johansson somehow. We don't know. But not
That
important.
would be crazy, considering I don't think they're that far off in age.
That,
What if Elsa was in the Black Widow program? Actually, no, I would hate that. Don't do that, Marvel. Kevin
but
Feige just heard me and he was like, "Oh," and I'm no, don't do that.
I do like the theory with the bloodstone. Someone on our site wrote this. I think it was Joao, Joa squiggly O. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's Portuguese. Great. But I think he wrote an article about how that Miss Marvel's bangles and Shang-Chi, the Ten Rings, were like kind of these like more or less of Phase 4 in the multiverse saga, whereas like the Infinity Gems were before. And I can see that, and I can see the Bloodstone being what like weirdly ties together their new-ish supernatural corner of the MCU. Like that's kind of what almost unites it somehow through all the stories going into whatever we do in the future. I can see that being the which helps because she's the they talking loud enough.
Um, the last three words, yes.
I don't know where that started.
No, it was just the last like couple sentences that you said were like in and out.
Bloodstone
Yep, I heard that.
may be an item that ties together the supernatural wing of the MCU going forward,
I heard all that.
like other weapons, items, things are maybe doing otherwise. So Miss Marvel's bangles, ten rings, etc. Not my idea originally. That was essentially what I said.
Gosh. Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't know how I would feel, and this is it could be true, but like I don't know how I would feel personally about them doing like it's the Infinity Stones again, but they're different now. Like,
Yeah. I mean, I think it. I don't know. I don't know, but I think it could make sense if they use. And honestly, the Bloodstone makes the most sense. But like use that as like a reason to like thread through all the stories of that part of the universe to like connect
right.
them and then bring them somewhere else. But I don't know.
That would be very interesting. Or like artifacts in the eventual battle world, and they each are like part of a. I don't know. Um, I'm not gonna pretend to have like a fully realized theory for that right now. But yeah. So we covered the Bloodstone, and we covered the Bloodstones, the family. Uh, One thing that surprised me about this special was I feel like Marvel has a very deep even though they're not well known, like a deep pool of supernatural, like monster hunters and monsters and whatnot to pull from. So I was surprised by the fact that it wasn't like more Easter eggy than it was. The fact that all of the monster hunters, aside from the Bloodstone family and Jack Russell, who's not even the monster hunter, he's just posing as one. That all of them were original creations for the show. So like Joshua Joven, he's the big Scottish Irish.
Scottish. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think it's Scottish.
I think he's Scottish. Yeah, the big guy with the X. That guy, Azrael. Um, who is Eugenie? I'm forgetting the last name. The one who had sort of the David Bowie vibe about them. Uh, Barrasso. I wrote an article. I'm forgetting the names, but the point being, they were all original creations, which I think is interesting because on one hand, I understand like they're gonna get 5 minutes of screen time and then you're gonna kill them. So why waste like a named Monster Hunter from the Marvel comics? I get that. On the other hand, how many of these are you gonna do that you feel like you need to save like all of these Monster Hunters for later? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there could have been some of them. Um, we do know that at one point in the development process, it was planned that Mahershala Ali would appear as Blade in this special. We don't know how. I, I mean, it seems like he would have been one of the monster hunters that shows up, but I don't know how he would have fit into the story and the way it unfolded if he was. And I also don't know if Blade is the kind of guy who would show up for a monster hunting competition. I'm not 100% sure that's his vibe. Either way, we do know Blade was supposed to be in it at one point. That did not happen. And recently, we got news that the universe hates Blade, and that we're not gonna see that movie maybe ever or for a long time. Um,
Maybe.
Maybe ever. Who is to say? Um, we have lost a director. We have lost a release date. We have lost a cameo.
Release. They
We have lost a first release date. I would not be surprised. I listen, man.
shouldn't get
Mahershala can only hold on for so long. I don't know.
there. But
I,
yeah.
at a certain point, we're gonna have to get a little worried here. But for now we got the werewolf. Let's talk about him because I like them. Yeah, you.
Do you want to talk about the actual werewolf part or just the character as a whole? I just wanted to make sure I was
I mean, we can do both, but I did like the werewolf. If
okay.
that
That
okay.
was my least. No, the look of the werewolf was my least favorite part because it was very practical and like kind of corny, and like that's fair and it fit and I liked it in that way. But like I didn't look at the werewolf and go, yeah, I like the way that looks. But
Now,
again, I have learned everybody seems to disagree with that, so that's just
now hear me out. At the Disney parks, That's not where you thought I was going, but it's where I went.
Oh,
At the Disney parks, you see him full color. It's a man in the same costume, and he look. I think he done looks real good. So I think there's potential because I
video
think if
from
the
like far away and he's pacing up
yeah,
top.
but the video they zoomed in, and I think that that means something. But I think that if they can do it, so can the movies. Also, I don't know. I'd be lying if I said I didn't like it. I liked it a
I
lot. I think that we've seen a lot of werewolves that all look the same in the sense that they're all just like big CGI like monstrosities. And I don't mean that like not just the CGI part, but I think that when we think of a werewolf, all of us are thinking sort of the same thing. And I like that when he shows up, it's not that. Um, I like that they incorporated the like face tattoo or whatever into it. Um, and I will say, my good friend Jake Christie uh actually said this to me. I'm giving him shouts from the MC University podcast. He was talking about how most movies and with these types of characters, they are like they are like men who are also monsters, but Jack is sort of portrayed as like a monster who is like more of a man, like really in his heart. If that like tracks and makes sense. So I like that his design sort of reflects that. Like even when he's fully a werewolf, you still see Jack like in the face. He's not like completely lost because he isn't completely lost, and I do like that design choice. Also, I am just a sucker for like the cheesy practical. I like when he's jumping around and it looks like he's dangling from a wire. Like that's fun. Um,
thought everything he did was great. I mean, and I
yeah.
didn't dislike it. It was just kind of the corny practical effects is not what's gonna like fill me with.
Also, Michael Giacchino's score was fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm gonna add that. I think that that heightened the werewolf stuff a lot because when you have something that is sort of intentionally cheesy, that could very easily go poorly. But I think that that like fantastic score that was like a mix of old timey, but also like just genuinely very good music. Really heightened those scenes where it like lingers on him like breathing and just like staring at the camera. Like I think that only works as well as it does because the music is very good. Um, but yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
yeah. I think all the like elements of like technical production, like the music, the lighting, all that. Like I think it all worked together so well. And had like one thing been off, it would have been like maybe terrible. But none of them were, which is very good for a lot of reasons. And
Yeah.
so fantastic. But I do agree. Like if something like let's say the score just like not worked quite the same way or didn't work with the other stuff, so it would have been different. Maybe, probably. But I agree. Like all those elements, yeah.
Yeah, so we got the werewolf. Another thing I'll bring up for the sake of the breakdown is that they do kind of change the Jack Russell character a little bit outside of the werewolf situation. Mainly in the fact that he in the special is a very sweet, lovable. He's a sweetie pie. He's a nice little guy, you know. And in the comics, Jack Russell is a little more. I mean, he's cranky. Like he's a little more stereotypical to what you would think a guy who's cursed to be a werewolf, like what his vibe would be. That's what he is in the comics. Um, he's a little suicidal. It's pretty dark. He's cranky. He's sort of mean to people on account of the fact that he is a werewolf, which is understandable. But in the MCU, they've decided we've seen that. We've seen the guy who's a werewolf and doesn't like it a lot. So what if we do that? But this version of that guy is at least a bit of a sweetie pie, and that I did like, and him being pals with Man Thing, which is also new for the MCU. I mean, granted, they have both been part of the Legion of Monsters. They have interacted in the comics. It's not like they've never met in the comics before. But the idea of them being like best buddies, best pals, that's not like a lot. They don't have that sort of relationship in the comics. That is something they came up with for the MCU. So there were some changes, but I do like them. I like that they have made Jack Russell so likable. So that's what I'll say about that.
He was real sweet. He
Yeah,
was just like this warm presence, and like obviously he's the main character, but I felt like nothing was that, and then he would just kind of show up and just you know, when they was sweet.
yeah,
I did like him a lot, and then obviously when he was werewolf mode, I think the action scene, whatever you want to call it, where he's just taking people out. It's
very
just like top tier MCU in my mind. It kind of reminded me of like the Daredevil hallway scene that is always brought up always, and just kind of that same visual almost. But like it was great, and like you mentioned earlier, this was definitely like the most violent
Oh
um,
yeah,
project, like without a doubt. And I mean, the only reason anyone would be like, I don't know, is because it was black and white. And as we know, the R rating comes in hot with blood and like gore, whatever. So when it's black and white and they don't necessarily show a ton of that, although they did towards the end, I liked it.
it is.
But yeah, that's
Well,
what
it's like a stupid. I feel like it goes to show how like ratings on things are very silly, and for whatever reason, when they're rating things, if the blood is not red, then they don't count it. So when you have something in black and white, you can spray as much blood as you want because it shows up as like black. Like it shows up as just it's not like it does not look like blood. For those that are listening, I did the quotation marks with my fingers because I think it's baloney. Um, yeah, so they could get away with violence. I don't really know how the black and white changes cutting someone's hand off and then shooting them in the head with an arrow.
there
Or
wasn't much blood with the hand chopping out. Like there wasn't any blood
no,
actually.
it's just that's the thing is like
Yeah. So that's
even
like
without the blood, I still understood how violent it was. So the blood seems redundant. Same when you like, I mean, when he tore the guy's ear off and it sprayed everywhere, that was pretty fun.
Uh, well, I mean, to your point, yes, the ratings are very silly. I mean, the violence I think is a bit more case by case. They care about it more, so it's kind of hard to say like how many factors went into like how some. And this is like also TV, so it'd be TV 14 versus TVMA rather than PG-13 versus R. But like in the movies, at least, like you become an R movie if you say fuck twice or more. So like that's just canon.
Yeah,
So in
which
theory,
means they
all
could
this.
have said it once. They could have said
Yeah.
it once here. Where
Yeah.
would you put it?
Oh God, I don't know. I would put it in a lot of places. I say it a lot. Um,
I think that Verusa should have said it right before Man Thing annihilated her.
that's fair. I think there's a lot. Again, I say it a lot. So I think there's a lot of places.
Yeah,
It's hard for me to pick that place. Although it's funny to me, slightly unrelated, well unrelated, but like how the MCU has like teased the F word before. Like
yeah.
Spider-Man does that a lot, and it's just like you get one, like you do get one, but they like to be.
Yeah, but you can't have Spider-Man say it.
I know you could have other characters. But they're still trying to be like somehow that makes them family friendly because they don't say like one.
I do think it's funny that canonically speaking, he has said it in costume in front of people in the MCU. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but yeah. So the rating of this show, not show, this special presentation, I think had a lot of discussion about it, like with public, because people want to know: is Marvel going to make certain other movies, Deadpool, I think that's a given, but like Blade, whatever, R instead of PG-13? Obviously, Marvel has never done that, but I
If
think
they make it black and white,
if
they
they make it black and
have
white, but
them.
I think maybe we're seeing like some of their like interest in going into that. I mean, I think what was the quote? The director, one of his quotes was like, "I kept wanting to add more blood, and they just said go for it." So like maybe this is like,
I'm
are
not sure that I think that Marvel Studios gets a rap that they're very anti blood or gore or whatever. I don't think that like Kevin Feige or any of the directors or anything were like, ew, we can't do that. Like I think that it was just they either didn't have a story that really called for it, or they were like, we could do it, but then it's gonna push this to R, and we don't need like Spider-Man to be rated R. You know what I'm saying? So they're like, let's just not do it. But I think that now they finally have their hands on all these characters that do call for it, and I don't think that they're afraid to do that. Like I don't think they ever were afraid. I just think that they didn't really have like a spot for it. You know what I'm saying? That like really like made sense organically.
I think they were afraid to do that. I mean, it's all started in 2008. We are now in 2022. It's been a long time. They've had plenty of years to like throw in some more violence that could be R-rated, right? So I don't think they wanted to it. And you had Moon Knight, which they wanted it to act like it was more violent, but it like just wasn't. I mean, kind of, but like it certainly wasn't that next rating that we're talking about. And like they've had opportunities. I agree with you. I think we're venturing into more and more characters, but I think part of why we're venturing into those characters now, one, they're not Captain America, Iron Man. I get that, but now they're willing to take more risks, including maybe more violence or whatever language. Who knows what they want to do? But like Deadpool, for example, they didn't have him before, to be fair, but they would have wanted to put him in there relatively earlier on, probably if they had. That's just a guess, and they probably would have made that PG-13 if they had the first go of it. I would guess. I think we can all agree not Ryan Reynolds slash Deadpool. I associate it with Ryan Reynolds too much at this point.
At this
Forte.
point, it's sort of like it's like in Robert Downey Jr. Like it's hard to think about Iron Man and not think about RDJ.
Yeah.
You know?
But yeah, so my main point was I think they have been pretty consciously sticking to PG-13 for those
Yes,
reasons.
I guess that's
And
fair.
I don't think they were afraid in like a crazy way, but I think they would have resisted our ratings for things that we would consider now to be like maybe it should be R. I think they would have, and I think they are getting more risque looking into it. But I think this is a good example of there's kind of skirting the line a little bit. I don't know discussions about it or what, but it's the most violent thing we've seen. I'll be
It's for me like even I mean obviously I'm a big fan of like the it's violence but it's like cheesy violence almost and it's like I'm a big fan of all of that. Like I don't have to get into that anymore than I have. But for me it's just exciting to see something like so different, which is not again, people have said this. I'm not the first person to be like, "Oh my gosh, it's different." Like we've been talking about it for a long time. I just think that it's exciting. Like now I feel like they have no excuse to not do things. Like do anything and it'll be fun if you do it well. Like just let it happen. I mean, we're going to get another special presentation before the year is over. Um we have in December the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special um coming out. So, it's not been officially labeled yet Marvel Studios special presentation, but based on everything we know about it, it seems like it would be. So I'm thinking it's going to be the second Marvel Studios special presentation. Yes, everyone keeps forgetting that's happening, but I have not because I love those movies and I love a holiday special, so I'm excited. Um, but yeah, much like Werewolf by Night, I think that's going to be like 3 weeks before it comes out, they'll be like, "Surprise! It's happening!" It's like we
yeah.
knew for like 2 years, and they're like, "Well, we wanted to pretend you didn't," and then yeah.
You literally filmed in Hollywood on the water.
James Gunn has talked about it openly for a year,
Exactly.
and you
Yeah.
still won't commit to marketing of any kind.
I do think that's interesting how they did that. They don't really do that, obviously, Marvel Studios. They try to keep things secret, and it wasn't secret. Werewolf by Night, if you Googled Marvel, like
It
we
had its own
all
Wikipedia page
posted
for the
their
last year.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, if you were the kind of person that only looked at like their official releases or stuff, like fine, like you wouldn't have known. That's cool. But for a lot of the audience that's like paying attention to Marvel Studios on Disney Plus, they knew about it. So it's
Yeah.
interesting how I don't know. Are they going to stick to holidays for a while before just like doing them, or is
I
because
would be okay with them like just doing it. But I also really like the idea. Just because I love like thematically speaking holiday releases and stuff like that. I'm not saying we honestly. I'm not even saying we need like a Christmas special every year. I'm okay with that being one and done. But I do think that I don't know the rate at which Marvel wants to like build its Legion of Monsters, but I do think that releasing like a new holiday or a new Halloween special every year with like a different monster as the lead would be a really fun way to like do your Legion of Monsters like Avengers style. Again, I don't know, like this could Legion of Monsters could be something that they're planning for like post Secret Wars. Like I don't know. What was that?
I said Phase 20. It's a joke.
Phase 20, yeah, like I don't know the rate at which they want to throw this together. But either way, I do think the idea of like a Halloween special every year with like different monsters as the leads and stuff would be really, really fun. I think it would be really cool. Even if Legion of the Monsters itself is not like a feature length film, it's just like the fourth Halloween special or something like that. I think that's totally fine. I think this proves that you don't need 2 hour runtime to tell like a really fun, compelling monster story. Like it works out for everybody. We're all enjoying it. I feel like are we missing anything?
I mean, probably you skipped the whole middle the last time today you watched it.
Yeah, but that was like the third time I saw it. I just was
I
trying to
mean,
I
there's like plenty of little things, but I mean, nothing
like what?
major.
Name one.
I don't know. We could have talked about like the friendship between Elsa and Jack, who was like, "Look at me in the eyes the whole time." Has this worked once? Who is the once? We could speculate about that. If
That's good.
there's a lot of things.
That's exactly what I wanted. I said, give me one, and you did, and that's good.
Gregor was one of the Gregors. Spoiler
It
alert.
was one of the five Uncle Gregors.
One is either his dad, his grandpa, his great grandpa,
At,
his great
at the Rusoff family reunion, you show up, everybody is named Gregor, and then there's Jack.
That'd be a good special.
I would watch that.
Yeah, I can see that.
They all turn into werewolves, and then someone's like Gregor, and then like 20 of them turn, and except for Jack,
Yeah,
and they're like, now we know which one is Jack. They want to find Jack. They don't actually want to find Gregor, but that's how they find Jack. He's the only one that doesn't answer to Gregor.
yeah. That's it. That's the next Halloween special. I do like your point of they could, if they wanted to, kind of make like a mini Avengers setup, but for someone else or a different group or whatever. Like they
Yeah,
have so much freedom, and they've shown that with this now, and they have a cool little intro for special presentation, which does not fit with Werewolf by Night's vibe, but it is fun. So it's just funny to me that that was like the first time I saw it. I'm like, oh, okay,
well,
but
they. I will say, I know I keep butting in here, but the point in my head that I'm thinking of when you say that is like Werewolf by Night was not on like when they go to Comic Con and they announce their phases and they have like the big, image with the timeline and all that sort of stuff. Like Werewolf by Night was not on that. And I'm hard pressed to believe that they would do Werewolf by Night this year now and then be like, we're not gonna do another monster thing for the next 3 to 4 years. Because like
yeah.
just because it's not on that slate, we now know it doesn't mean it's not happening. So I would believe that if they wanted to put this together for this year, it's very likely that like every year we're gonna get some sort of like monster thing. And if they want to do that, they might as well make it their like annual Halloween special. I mean, they could capitalize on that in the same way that Netflix capitalizes on a new Mike Flanagan TV show every October.
No, I mean I agree with that. I think, and I'm glad that this was really successful. Like because as the first one. Of course, if it had been like weird, you'd have that weird stigma. Marvel shouldn't do these anymore from like half the internet, you know. But like, it was very successful. Marvel has every incentive to keep doing them. I don't know how financial shit works with Disney Plus, but like in theory, every incentive. And so I agree, and I think they have the freedom clearly to do a lot of different things. So the idea that they can't bring certain characters to live action is just like not an argument anymore. Like there's virtually nothing you can't give a special to or series to or movie.
Once you make a TV special with Werewolf by Night and Man Thing as two of your main characters, you have no excuses anymore.
Exactly. And I mean, if you have all these different formats that you're willing to like give like real quality attention to, like why not? Like if there's a weird ass character you just want at some point in the universe,
like Manphibian.
I, I
Marvel, look at me. Look at this. Look what's happening here. Let me direct a Marvel Studios special presentation. Manphibian.
few steps too far there, but I
think that, I mean, how else am I going to get there? Like, what's going on, you know?
let me, this random man, direct. You're not random, you're great.
They like indie filmmakers.
You're not an indie filmmaker.
Not yet. I would like to think that a Marvel Studios special presentation, Manphibian, is probably not going to come out until 2026, 2027. I got time. I could make like 2 indie films between now and then.
Special. I hope in
What?
like April. I hope in April we get like an Easter special and it's Manphibian.
What would? Oh, that would make no sense. That would be upsetting to me. Well, no, that would be good. Actually, if he fought the Easter Bunny, I would watch it.
You'd watch it anyway. I mean,
I would watch it anyway. What? Okay, this is how we're gonna end.
First of all, what Marvel Studios project are you just not gonna watch?
None of them. Even if they announced it and I was like, "That's bad," I would still watch it because I would be like, "How bad?" You know? I watched the unreleased 1994 film, The Fantastic Four, for fun, more than once. They're not gonna not get me to watch something. It's gonna be, they're gonna have to try.
I know. I was calling you out.
It's not. I admit to it. There's gonna have to be some sort of really bad scandal. Like, if I watch this, I'm supporting someone really terrible. That's the only way.
You probably still would though, out of curiosity, and that's not on you. Like that's.
No. I would pirate it and hope the FBI does not notice.
I don't think they'll really notice too much. Got a lot on their hands.
Listen, I'm just a big nerd. It's not just Marvel. It's a lot of the things. It's the same for Star Wars, even DC. I'd be like, I kind of want to see it.
Okay, well, pirating it counts as seeing it.
I don't pirate, FBI.
Well, Hunter is going to see all of these things.
The only thing I pirate, nothing. I don't pirate anything. The only thing that sometimes I watch on websites that perhaps may or may not be the website I'm supposed to watch it on, that I'm not sure of and am not admitting guilt to, is Buffalo Bills football games, because I do not live in the correct market to watch them on my TV. And I'm too poor to watch any of those NFL Red Zone channels or whatnot.
You're not in the right market in New York.
No, I'm in New York City. They got the stupid Jets and the stupid Giants.
Hey, the Buffalo Bills.
And the Buffalo Bills are the only real New York team. I got that here.
Surprises me they wouldn't air that for you.
Because for me, I know every day I'm like, for me, not even for me. That's crazy. No, you got to be in upstate New York, or you can't find it unless they're playing the Jets and the Giants, and then I can find it.
is not. There's just no way. I mean, you're in New York City.
That's what I'm saying. But the thing is,
Everything. Like, I feel like that's the market where you don't have problems with shit like that.
no, because it's not the local market. Only plays the New York City sports teams.
And all of New York City only cares about the New York City local team.
No, like I can go to. Okay, let me clarify. This is for you folks at home. I know we're still recording. Okay, so I can go to places that play the Bills game, but if I gotta be at work or something and I can't go, I'm not gonna not watch the Bills game, right? So I gotta like watch it on my phone or something while I'm doing my day job. And when I'm doing that, like my phone only has the local markets, unless of course I find a website that offers an alternative.
You do you, and I do not
I
watch sports.
will. I do that every week. Not every week, FBI. Okay. So I feel like what else is there anything else you'd like to talk about? Mary, who do you think that Jack has sniffed before?
I don't know.
It's Dracula.
Part of that is there were just certain things that were very specific that were good for the story without the backstory, but that they're probably going to, in one way or another, give them some sort of origin treatment. Not necessarily like a whole thing, but like a little thing. I think we're gonna see. And I don't know if that'll be part of it. Maybe it's like a past living, maybe whatever. I don't know. Maybe it's a Gregor. We don't know.
It was a Gregor.
Probably.
Okay, and with that, I say we're probably gonna call it. I think we did good enough. I'd also like to say that this whole thing happened because I messaged Mary very last minute today and said, "Let's do this." Why? Because literally one person asked for it, and if you if you were that one person, this was for you. I just did
I don't know.
a
You
whole thing.
their name.
I think the name was Alex something. I'm a man of the people, and
He doesn't know your name.
I'm here to please. I'm here to please. It doesn't matter. I did the service, did I not? I got you involved, and that's what happens. Also, for the people, I record 2 more points. For me, not Mary. Mary lives in a different time zone, but for me, I recorded this around midnight, and that feels correct for a Werewolf by Night thing. So for me, it is now almost 1 o'clock in the morning. Um, and my second point is that at the beginning of this, Mary seemed to indicate I could not do this voice for a full hour. And not only
do the voice for the full hour.
and not only did I do this voice for the full hour, I've done this voice for an hour and 13 minutes, and I started doing it before we recorded.
The person that asked if we were gonna do this just clicked out at like 10 minutes in because you were still doing it.
That's okay.
That'd be poetic.
That's okay. I think it's all right. I needed to do a little bit of character work, and now I have this. So, thank you everybody for watching the Universal Church of Truth. I have been one half of your deathly host, Professor Cornelius Fancyworth Wigglybottom.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yeah.
Yeah, just regular.
It's Mary. Thank you so much. we finally broke. Okay. Good night, everybody. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.